Well, let's get on with the Congress here. We've got one. How about bringing me my notes, huh? You know, I always have to have notes. There we are. Good, good. I always have to have notes, you know. It's a very hard thing to follow notes. I mean, to give an extemporaneous Congress. And I don't want to establish some new principle here, being entirely extemporaneous and so forth, and just giving you a Congress off the cuff, because it'd be a bad precedent, you know. So I've this time very carefully collected some notes and some materials and so on, and in view of the fact that we're dealing mainly and basically with the mind, why I've collected here most of the noteworthy books on the subject of the mind. And I'm very happy to here's, for instance, a general introduction to psychoanalysis by Professor Sigmund Freud, LLD. What does that LLD stand for? Well, that's beside the point. Anyway, we want to take this thing up thoroughly. We want to take the mind up very thoroughly. The courtyard in which the sheet metal lies spread out is not to be considered primarily as symbolical, but refers to the Father's place of business. I will add arbitrarily that going down, like the more usual going up, is meant to describe, well, isn't that interesting? I mean love rivalry with the emphasis on the sexual character. The son, even as a small child, begins to develop an especial tenderness for his mother. It would be strange if a child didn't develop tenderness for his mother. But here we find the Oedipus complex entering in. We now know why we're all aberrated, because we are fond of our mothers. Well, I don't want to give you a Congress without a great deal of learned material in it, and to be sure, there are all kinds of objections possible to the declaration that neurotic symptoms are substitute for sexual satisfaction. You said it, there are objections. In fact, I can think of quite a few. Well, I just wanted to give you a very authoritative, I guess we'd better forget that one. Let's see if we haven't got something that's much more pertinent here. Oh, here's something. Here's a dictionary of psychology. It's very good, very good. Now, obviously, psychology should tell us a great many things which we should be well aware of. The first thing it should tell us about, there should be some definition in a this is a dictionary, so there should be some sort of a definition for life. Just a minute. Lie detector. Life. Limnon, limit, linear perspective. There's no definition for life. Well, that's beside the point. There's undoubtedly here a definition. I hate to give a Congress off the cuff, you know. I like to have authoritative material here backing me up. Mind. No definition in here for mind. Well, there's undoubtedly a definition for psychology. I'll look at that. Psychology. Though the era of definition in terms of the tenets of various schools of psychology is past, there is no acceptable single-sentence definition. Now, look, I was trying to give you an authoritative Congress here. Let's look up creativeness, shall we? Creativeness. I'm sure they have a definition for that. The various things, you know, you need to make something. I'm getting very nervous here because I expected these fellows to give me a hand, you know. Creative thinking. No creation, but there's creative thinking. It's the achievement of a new relationship among parts of an experience. Well, a little bit embarrassed here because I expected some of these boys to back us up, you know. There's some books on there on yogi, but I know what they say. They say if you sit still long enough, you will have sat still. Well, I'm embarrassed. There go all my notes. You can take these things away. You can take those things away. I hardly know what sort of a Congress to give you now. I mean, here we've got all of the former schools that were supposed to tell you all about the mind and so forth, and they don't have definitions for the things that we consider the mind, you know, like life and being alive, and what do you do with them? Well, I don't care what you do with them. Burn them. What do I do with them? But you'd think they'd had definitions for things called the mind and definitions for things called a man or a woman or a life. You'd think there'd be objects. And the other day I had a wonderful idea. I was going to write a bridge book between psychology and Scientology, and a bridge book between psychoanalysis and Scientology. Now, don't you think that'd be nice? And we put them out in the bookstores, and people pick them up, and they read all about psychoanalysis, and then... Well, hope the management doesn't find out about this. I didn't mean him to take me that literally. Well, there goes psychoanalysis.